Now, this thing is getting so bad. So what these Republican senators will be doing is looking at the polls in their own states. So far, they've towed the line in support of this president because they're looking out for their own careers, which I find horrifying and corrupt in and of itself. Every one of us, everyone at this table, if you have not already, you will in your life. You have to make ethical decisions. You have to make ethical decisions as a student. These are not the only people who have to make ethical decisions. These are not the only people for whom, well, doing the right thing might cost you your job. Lose your job then. That's what's wrong in this society, that anybody thinks it's okay, that's a reason, you know. But I think what's happening now is that could be tipping over. So we're in the middle of a situation which is changing every day. So I don't assume today, the way I would have assumed months ago, that, oh, well, you know, even if the House impeaches him, the Senate never will. I don't know. And there were during the Watergate scandal, there were real statesmen in the Republican Party. It was Republican senators who drove to the White House to tell Richard Nixon, it's over. So, we'll see.
And now, just to briefly touch on Iowa before I pass it back to Aishwarya. So earlier this year, you moved to Des Moines to focus full-time on or not full-time, but maybe to focus.
There was a staff member who thought he could get some, you know, ink in the newspaper to say, oh, she's moved to Iowa. So, you know, that's not actually the way it went down.
So we'll zoom out. So we'll just say, the Iowa caucus.
Yes.
February 2020 coming up.
Yes.
It's only a few months away now.
Don't make me nervous now.
So, you're in a little bit of a tough position right now, given the debate qualifications from the DNC. So I guess I have two questions around this. The first would be sort of more simply, what is your strategy in Iowa moving forward? And secondly, I think you and Tulsi Gabbard have been fairly critical about how the DNC is conducting the debate process. What would you propose be done differently?
I believe that the role of the political parties and the media is to facilitate democracy, not dictate democracy. I think the primary system itself is quite profound. I think it's something very beautiful about the fact that states like Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, Nevada play such an important part. I don't have a problem with that. But what I find is that there are two different political universes. One is the pundits and the polls and the party and the DNC and the money and it's a corporate behemoth. I mean, it's huge. It's, you know, I was reading about one candidate spending $10 million in Iowa alone. And then there are the voters. And the voters, there's so much syrup here. Where's the waffle? So I'm in this race because the connection I feel is with voters. And as long as I feel that that connection is happening, then I'm here. As long as people are sending the money to Marianne2020.com, that they feel that this campaign should exist, then I'm here. And the only strategy is getting in front of voters. I feel that when I talk to people, when people hear my ideas, my vision for the country, the Department of Children and Youth, reparations, reparative measures with Native Americans, World War II level massive mobilization to reverse climate change, a Department of Peace, waging peace, economic hope and opportunity into the life of the average American, free college, cancellation of the college loan, a real return of this country to democracy rather than corporatocracy. Then I know that that message is resonating. The issue, of course, is will I have the money? Will I have the ability? Do we have the time to reach enough voters?
Hey, UC3P listeners. I'm Thomas.
And I'm Nick.
In the United States, public faith in the military remains sky high, while trust in other government institutions sinks to an all-time low.
At the same time, fewer than 1% of Americans will ever serve in the armed forces, and the cultural divide between active duty troops and the civilian population continues to widen.
UC3P presents a new series, Thank You for Your Service, where we take a deep dive into the complex world of civil-military affairs.
We'll address the politicization of the military, defense policy in the news, and the importance of staying informed in a democracy.
Join us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts as we explore how our professional military institution relates to the society it serves.
As you mentioned briefly earlier, one of your campaign's key issues is reparations for slavery. Not only has this topic been significant in the presidential debates, it is also an ongoing discussion on many college campuses, including the University of Chicago, since many of America's long-standing higher education institutions have benefited from profits made with slavery. So how do you believe universities and other non-governmental entities should approach reparations?
You know, I'm running for president, and so what I'm weighing in on is how American public policy should approach the issue of reparations. One of the things that I have found appalling about our current president, he's weighed in on what the NFL should do. He weighs in on what corporations should do. He weighs in on what colleges should do in ways that I believe are very inappropriate for an American president. What I have been happy to see is how vocal the students have been at many educational institutions. I've been very happy, and it's not just about reparations. It's about pharmaceutical companies who give so much money to the medical school at certain places. I mean, there are all kinds of ways, not only in the past, but also in the present, where there's a lot of conversation about corporate influence at educational institutions. I think some of the stuff in the present is every bit as problematical as some of the stuff in the past, because this is the minds that are being prepared to take us forward. I'm happy to see students vocal about it. I'm happy to hear that it's the kind of question you would be asking. I'm happy to hear that it's a topic that is roiling the campuses, but I think that my input should go there and no further.
Can I follow up real quick just about like higher education in general? And then we'll pass it back to you. I'm just curious. So we are sitting in the Harris School of Public Policy at the University of Chicago, where the next generation of aspiring political leaders and public servants are studying the tools of policymaking. And I would love to hear what you think about, is good policymaking a skill that can be taught in school, or is it something that you need more life experience for? And if that's the case, what are the life experiences you bring that uniquely qualify you?
That's a very good question. I think that there are skills involved in making public policy. I think there's also life experience involved in giving you the moral certitude to know what direction that public policy should go. The problem we have in Washington today is not that there are not enough public policy experts. The problem we have in Washington today is that there's not enough public policy that is driven by ethics, that is driven by any sense of empathy or public morality. So this is not to disparage in any way the mechanics of public policy. But right now we need a political visionary right now, more than we need a political mechanic. So the tools of public policy, is it good that people are here learning about it? Absolutely. But at the same time, if you're going to learn public policy and then you're going to be so propagandized by a virulent strain of capitalism as to think that it's all about using public policy as a tool for increasing short-term profits of huge multinational corporations as opposed to increasing the vitality of your democracy and the good of humanity, then what was any of it for? What does any of it mean? You know, there are some of the most evil people in the world were policy geniuses. I mean, come on, guys. Concentration camps were a policy. So I think we need to remember that it's moral certitude. I mean, what is going on down at the border when you separate children from their parents? That is, after all, a public policy. Now, in terms of life experience, though, I've known some very, very wise young people. You know, I think this whole thing about age and experience, people say, do you think that Bernie or Joe Biden are too old? I think it's every bit as problematical if someone is too young to know certain things yet, as it is perhaps problematical if somebody is too old to remember certain things. I think every age gives you knowledge about something. I think the younger you are, the more you know about certain things, and the older you are, the more you know about certain things. I think public policy should be made by a good mix of both. It should be made by some older people who have had the experience to know some things that keep coming back around. And it also should be made by younger people who have more invested in what goes on here 30, 40, 50 years from now. So I don't think that you can make any hard lines about any of that. But without heart, without soulfulness, without love, none of it means anything.
What have you been most surprised by over the course of the campaign?
I can't really say I've been surprised by lies that have been told about me, because I didn't think it would be a walk in the park. But some of the lies have been so egregious and so outrageous. And what I've been most surprised about, we're talking about public policy, some journalists, did they not take an ethics class at all? Or I think the bigger problem is not just journalists who don't think they need to fact check, when you have journalists who take somebody's tweet and think that that's a reasonable thing to repeat in an article. And then, of course, many of these people who call themselves journalists actually aren't journalists. They just have a website. And particularly in the title of the website, it's more about how many clicks it's going to get than it is about what the content is. I've been, I think, surprised by how low we have gone. The situation has shown me that the system is even more corrupt than I feared, but people are even more wonderful than I knew.
To turn it back from lies to truth, maybe, is there anything that you have learned about yourself in this process that you maybe didn't know before, or some experience that has been completely novel?
Well, I don't know if it's something I've learned about myself, but I have certainly learned. I've never been in a situation where I was so challenged to practice what I preach. There is much opportunity to feel victimized. There is much opportunity to feel angry. There's much opportunity to feel like giving up. And I have had to witness, who are you, Marianne? There are people who are giving money for you to do this, donating. They have their hopes riding on this. You are speaking for many people. And there have been plenty of times I've just attitudinally slapped myself across the face. Get up. No whining. Just stop it right now. Because you're going to, too much, this is too important. This is too important. So I believe I'm becoming a stronger person. I simply cannot afford to be emotionally self-indulgent. I simply cannot afford it.
So I know you're very busy. We're going to have to let you go soon. But the one last thing I did want to ask you is, you have said that it will take outrageous truth to defeat outrageous lies, which is what we're up against right now, or what we're facing in this country. What is the single most outrageous truth that you want the American public to take away from your campaign?
That the idea that we can be a society where, to the best of our ability, we will remove all shackles to the self-actualization of an individual. That we can provide a space for people to be, just be, who they are, regardless of who their parents were, regardless how much money they have, regardless of their education, regardless of their color, regardless of their sex or sexuality, regardless of their beliefs. The very idea that we can create that most perfect union, which we've never been perfect, we've never totally manifested, but that there's very little in life that could be a more glorious purpose than to do our best. And that it is the responsibility of every generation to hold that fragile possibility in our hands and to be responsible to it, to push back against any assaults against it, to shore it up, to expand it in places where it is still limited, and to give it to our children even in better shape, hopefully, than the way we found it. And we're living in one of those generations where the assaults upon our democracy, upon the values on which we purport to stand, are egregious, well-funded, insidious, entrenched, and we are called upon, like other generations have been called upon, to wake up, to rise up, and to step in.
Sounds like a call to action. That sounds like the best conclusion we could have asked for.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for being here with us.
I appreciate it.
That's a wrap on another episode of UC3P. Big thanks to Marianne Williamson for speaking with us, as well as to the members of her team for helping us set this up. We also want to thank Ms. Williamson for speaking to our podcasters before the interview, where she took a number of bold student questions. Credits go to Alec MacMillen and Aishwarya Kumar for interviewing, Iszy Licht for engineering, and myself, David Raban, for producing and editing. Our communications director is Thomas Krasnican. Our publisher is Haz Yano. Our intro music is Knockout 2 by Datubi. Our outro music is Yes Yes Y'all by Matt Large. Again, special thanks to the Harris School of Public Policy for helping us create our brand new studio. This time, we also want to give thanks to the communications team, the marketing team, the events team, and the facilities team. They all helped us prepare for Miss Williamson's arrival, and all of us at UC3P appreciate them and their help. If you want to hear more podcasts, check out our website, uc3p.org. And if you want to contact us, our email is theuc3p@gmail.com. So stay tuned.